The story begins on what seems to be an ordinary day, with our protagonist, a young man, making his way down a familiar street. He's on his usual route, likely finishing up errands or perhaps heading back home from work or school. Passing by the neighborhood convenience store, he doesn't expect anything out of the ordinary. But as he nears the entrance, he notices people fleeing from the store, moving in panicked, frantic strides. There's terror in their eyes, fear etched onto their faces, a sight that immediately puts him on edge. Something terrible has happened, or has happened, or is happening inside that store. Before he has time to process, a figure emerges from the shadows within the store. It's a man, and not just any man, a dangerous one, holding a gleaming knife. His face is twisted, filled with malicious intent. As the armed man steps out onto the street, his gaze falls upon two little girls who are frozen, unable to move, petrified by fear. In that moment, everything changes for our protagonist. He can't ignore what he's seeing. His heart pounds as he makes a split-second decision. Without a second thought for his own safety, he sprints toward the girls, closing the distance between him and the assailant. His only thought is to protect them, to stop this man from hurting these innocent children. He doesn't know how things will turn out. He doesn't care. All that matters is saving them. And just as the knife-wielding man lifts his arm, our protagonist throws himself at him, tackling him to the ground with all his strength. The girls are safe. They're crying but unharmed, looking at him with tearful eyes. But then, a sharp pain rips through his side. He looks down and sees blood slowly soaking his shirt. In the chaos, he didn't even feel the knife strike him. Stabbed, injured, he feels his strength draining. His vision begins to blur as the world around him becomes hazy. The cries of the little girls reach his ears, their voices distant but heart-wrenching. They're crying for him now, their faces twisted in sorrow as they watch him bleed. In his fading consciousness, he feels a strange warmth. He's glad that they're safe. He's glad he could protect them. But as his life slips away, a bittersweet thought crosses his mind. I made them cry. I didn't mean to make them cry. With that final, tender regret, he slips into darkness. He drifts in a vast, silent void. There is no pain, only quiet, a sense of weightlessness. And then, something shifts. A strange feeling envelops him, and he becomes aware, slowly, of sounds and warmth around him. He opens his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling, high above him, carved with intricate designs that seem far too elaborate for any hospital room. Confused, he glances around, taking in the soft bedding, the elegant furniture, the gentle light filtering in from a window. A maid dressed in an old-fashioned uniform notices him and rushes over, looking both relieved and delighted. She calls him Kane, a name that sends a jolt of confusion through him. "You're awake, Kane," she exclaims with joy. She goes on to say that his mother is overjoyed to hear he's recovered, her eyes warm and kind. His heart races, but he tries to stay calm, hoping he can piece together what's happening. As she calls for others, he catches a glimpse of himself in a nearby mirror. The reflection that meets his gaze is not his own, at least, not the one he remembers. He sees the face of a small child staring back, wide-eyed and bewildered. He realizes with a mix of shock and wonder that he has somehow been reborn. Am I in another world? Soon after, the maid who introduces herself as Sylvie returns with a woman who seems to radiate kindness. She's his mother, apparently, her face soft with motherly concern as she gently touches his cheek. She calls him Kane as well, her voice filled with affection. As they speak, he begins to understand he is in a noble family, reborn as a young boy with a new family and a new life in an unfamiliar world. When they leave to prepare a meal for him, he sits up, still dazed, struggling to come to terms with his reality. He had saved those girls, sacrificed his life without a second thought. But somehow fate, or perhaps some higher power, had granted him another chance. He looks around this luxurious room, marveling at the odd blend of luxury and antiquity, and decides he must learn more about this world. As days go by, he slowly learns about his new identity. He is now Kane Von Silford, the young son of a powerful margrave named Garm. His family includes his gentle mother, Sarah, and an older sister named Rain. He also learns of his father's first wife, Maria, who has 2 sons of her own. His new father, Garm, is a man of considerable influence and is charged with defending their land's borders. Every day, Kane pieces together more details, using every moment alone to reflect on his situation. Sylvie becomes his guide to this world. She is endlessly patient and begins to teach him about their strange land, a place filled with magical creatures, adventurers, and powerful beings. He learns that magic is real, that stories he once considered fantasy are now his reality. He longs to try magic himself, to tap into the unknown forces that fill the world. Though he has left behind everything he once knew, he finds that he doesn't miss his former life much. This world feels like a new beginning, a fresh start where he can truly make a difference. He throws himself into learning, astonishing his family with his quick intellect. His sister, Rain, proudly informs their father that Kane has learned to read and do arithmetic at an impressive speed for his age. His family praises his intelligence, unaware that he carries the knowledge of a high school student from another world. When he expresses a desire to study magic, his father advises patience, explaining that he must wait until his baptism at age 5 to receive his blessings from the gods. Secretly, Kane practices spells on his own, experimenting with small magic incantations. While he struggles at first, his persistence pays off, though not without mishaps. In one incident, he accidentally sets part of his room alight, hastily putting out the flames before Sylvie and Rain notice. Despite these challenges, he remains determined to master the art of magic and learns as much as he can about the kingdom, its history, and its mysteries. Eventually, the day of his baptism arrives. It's a grand affair, filled with ceremony and ritual. As he steps into the ancient church, he feels a powerful connection, as if something momentous is about to happen. When he kneels to pray, something extraordinary occurs. A radiant light pours from the statues of the 7 gods, and suddenly he finds himself standing before them in a celestial realm. The gods reveal to him that his heroic act in his previous life did not go unnoticed. His sacrifice moved the god of earth to grant him another chance, and thus he was reborn with his memories intact. Each god bestows him with blessings, endowing him with powers that far exceed those of ordinary mortals. When he awakens from the divine vision, he checks his status and is awestruck. His stats are astronomical, his abilities far beyond anything he had imagined. However, his father warns him of the need for secrecy, urging him not to reveal his gifts, as such power could be seen as a threat to the kingdom. Despite his growing power, Kane maintains his humility. He dedicates himself to his studies, learning everything he can about his family's duties and responsibilities. Yet, he never forgets the promise he made to himself in that other life, the desire to protect the innocent, to prevent tears and suffering. He trains, he studies, and he practices his magic in secret, determined to use his gifts for good. In one intense moment, while practicing summoning magic, he accidentally conjures a creature more dangerous than he intended. His sister and her friend are nearby, and the creature tries to attack them. With all his might, Kane shields them, ultimately sending the creature back to where it came from. As he looks at the frightened girls, he recalls the faces of the girls he saved in his past life and thinks, "I won't let anyone cry because of me again this time." He knows he has the power to make a difference. Years pass, and at his debut ceremony, his father asks him what he wants to be. With unwavering resolve, Kane replies, "I want to be an adventurer who protects people's smiles." In that moment, he feels a deep sense of purpose, ready to use his abilities to bring happiness and safety to others. This world, he decides, is where he belongs now, and he will do everything he can to make it a better place.